Prop 16. We have Lourdes Morales presenting this one.
Good evening. To understand Prop 16, you have to go back to 1996 when voters approved Proposition 209, which established a new section in the Constitution, which generally banned the consideration of 5 characteristics: race, sex, color, ethnicity, and national origin from public employment, public contracting, and public education. So there are a couple of exceptions to Prop 209, which means these characteristics can be used today. One of the key ones is that they can be used if it's a requirement of receiving federal funding. One area where this often comes in is in federal transportation funding, where some projects require there to be a consideration on whether businesses are owned by women or people of color when you're contracting out federally funded transportation projects. But generally, before Prop 209, these 5 characteristics could be used. So for example, race and ethnicity could be used as one of several characteristics considered in admissions for public universities and colleges. But after Prop 209, these programs either needed to be canceled completely or modified in some way. So for example, rather than considering race or sex or ethnicity, excuse me, a program may consider whether you are the first in your family to go to college. So this is a way where you are not considering one of the characteristics that was banned by 209, but if your goal is still to target certain populations, you could use these other characteristics. What Proposition 16 does is repeal Prop 209, essentially, which would allow state and local entities to consider the 5 characteristics: race, sex, color, ethnicity, and national origin in public education, public contracting, and public employment. But the proposal still requires that these considerations still comply with state and federal law. So most notably, the federal Constitution has equal protections that generally consider similarly situated people to be treated in similar ways under the law. As for the fiscal effects of these measures, there is no direct fiscal effect because it would require specific actions down the road for state and local entities to adopt their policies to consider these characteristics. So the fiscal effects are unknown and will depend on those future actions. Thank you.
So essentially, we would revert to pre-209.
That's correct. So you could consider the 5 characteristics, as was the case before 1996.
Okay. So putting this on the ballot, the legislature put this on the ballot. It was mostly a party line vote with the Democrats in favor of it. They do need a supermajority to do this, and they reached that threshold. And it's, again, a repeal of Prop 209. In support, we have the Democratic Party, Green Party, Peace and Freedom. And in opposition, the Republicans and Libertarians. And then on support, we have the ACLU, League of Women Voters, Courage California, Equality California, the Sierra Club. I couldn't list them all, but almost the entire California congressional delegation and many other Democratic statewide officials, including the governor. And then also Pete Buttigieg weighed in for some reason in support of it. And then against, we have the Chinese American Civic Action Alliance, Ward Connerly, who was behind Prop 209 back in the day, and then a couple of state senators. For the press, we have support from the LA Times, the Mercury News, San Francisco Chronicle, among others. And then against, we have the Orange County Register, San Bernardino Sun, and the Press Enterprise. And then the funding on this, we have, as you can see, it's really lopsided, right? We have money from the California Teachers Association, the Kaiser, ACLU, so some organizations that you recognize in addition to some individuals. And then against, we just have a few individuals with small donations and a group called Students for Fair Admissions that's small too. So you can see that there's over 18 million, almost 19 million in favor, and just a little over 1 million against. So again, you'll see more ads for it than you'll see against it. All right, what questions do you have on Prop 16? Let's see. So this will renew affirmative action, right?
So affirmative action isn't a sort of defined term, but it would allow for the consideration of the 5 characteristics noted in the measure.
So essentially, yes, but not with with quotas. Quotas are not allowed.
Right. So any policy that a state or local government would put in place would have to comply with existing federal laws. And so there's been a lot of case law in this area. One is around quotas not being prohibited.
Okay. Other questions on this measure? Not seeing a whole lot. Okay. Oh, wait. Does Sacramento State take a stand on this? Not officially, no. And I would not want to speak for the university. Has there been any analysis on the economic benefit for people in those 5 groups?
We haven't published any work related to the effects from 209.
Okay. So we don't know for sure. We do know that enrollments decreased in those groups at the UCs, for example. So there were some impacts when 209 took place. Okay. Well, thank you so much. And we're going to move on to the next measure.